Toyota is bringing back the Estima/Previa. That was our first, as far as I'm aware, our first true minivan from Toyota in the American market. Now, this thing was a freak. We only saw the first generation in America of the Previa/Estima, and some people call it the egg-shaped minivan. They called it the Genius Egg over in Japan. I mean, obviously in this white configuration too, but mid-engine. You could get it supercharged. You get a manual transmission, the rear-wheel drive based, but you can get it in a four-wheel drive. This thing was the coolest minivan, arguably one of the coolest minivans ever made. Well, it continued on for a few more generations in Japan. All right. Unfortunately, it was replaced here. Well, you could say it's fine. The Sienna is fine, right? I own a Sienna. But there's no denying that the Previa and the shape has more character than any Sienna that was made here in America. It eventually adopted a hybrid, right? Like the Sienna here. When I was in Japan, I saw quite a few of these on the road, and I didn't realize that they still make the Previa/Estima for certain markets. Now, it is no longer being made. They canceled it at the end of 2019, and it still looks fresh and modern to my eyes because we never got it here in the States. Check out what's coming from Best Car. Best Car Web is saying it's coming back. It's coming in 2027. The Previa is making its return. If you guys are excited for the Estima/Previa rebirth, smash the heck out of that like button, and let's talk about what could be coming for America. Now, what's interesting is that there were rumors about a year or two ago that the Sienna production, now take it with a grain of salt, right? I have no idea what's true or what to believe. But a source was saying that the Sienna could lose its production in North America. And if that's the case, they're saying it would go back to Japan, which the Sienna was never made in Japan, but the minivan production for the North America market would go back to Japan like it once did with the first generation Previa/Estima. So there is a possibility, there's a small chance we could get this minivan. And if you look at Volkswagen, the hype around the ID Buzz, I know that's fully battery electric. We'll talk about powertrains here in a little bit. If there's that much buzz around a Volkswagen minivan with retro flair, guys, the Previa would have, in my opinion, just as much clout coming back into the United States market, especially if it keeps this classic egg-shaped body form identity. All right, so let's get into what they're saying. The long-awaited return of the Estima, that's what they call it in Japan. It's called Previa here. Other markets, it's called other things. Now, they say there are two powertrains available, a 1.5-liter plug-in hybrid. This is the new 4-cylinder engine that Toyota debuted. Let me pull it up for you. I'll just pull it on the screen. This engine was debuted at the new multi-pathway conference and demonstration from Subaru, Mazda, and Toyota. And Subaru showed a hybrid boxer, Mazda was showing rotary engine stuff, and Toyota's like, we have two new 4-cylinder engines, a 2-liter turbo, a 1.5-liter naturally aspirated, and a 1.5-liter turbo. Now, this 1.5-liter plug-in hybrid is not really a plug-in hybrid. It's technically more of a EREV, or an extended range electric vehicle. And those are becoming very popular in China. What does that entail? Well, an EREV has a gasoline engine on board only as a generator. It only runs to juice up the battery, essentially. All right. And then the battery provides juice to the wheels. So the engine, unless Toyota does it differently, we haven't seen Toyota bring this to the market anywhere else other than China. I think they might have some cars in China with an EREV. I could be wrong, but if they are, it's not really their technology. They're borrowing it from BYD. But anyways, Toyota has yet to debut this technology. It should be out in 2026, 2027. And the engine is going to be small, high thermal efficiency, close to 50% thermal efficiency, and it will only run to generate a power for the battery. What is the battery? Well, the battery will be big, probably somewhere around 50 kilowatt hours. 50 kilowatt hours is going to be, let's say you're getting in something like this, maybe 3 miles per kilowatt hour. It could be more. So 3 times 40. So you're talking about 120 miles of battery electric range. That's just an estimate. It could be more. Now you could run in hybrid mode where the engine will kick in probably on highway modes or highway stints. And then you'll still have plenty of battery when you get back into driving in town. All right. So there's lots of different ways. There's customization, how you want to run that engine, just like a normal plug-in hybrid. All right. But instead of a normal plug-in hybrid like you see in the RAV4 Prime, the engine never directly powers the wheels unless Toyota decides to do different with their technology. Again, it's still a bit on the hush. They have said that they're working on it, but they haven't said how it's going to be implemented quite yet. All right. But if we look at how the Chinese are doing it, and the Chinese are very successful with their ERAVs. And Hyundai's even said, hey, there's no transmission in here. It's just a simple electric motor connected to a gasoline motor as a generator. All right. And that's probably what Toyota will do as well. They don't need to reinvent the wheel. All right. Let's talk about the design. Well, I mean, just looking at the ID Buzz here, what are the similarities? Well, you have a lot of glass. It's typical of a minivan. This is more of that bulldog snub nose approach, which that's what the ID Buzz, the original microbus was just like a bread box. You can't do that anymore because of safety regulations. You got to have some protection here in front, but they did a really good job. And that's why this van is so desirable, because it's the modern interpretation of the microbus. And the Previa / Estima would be a new take on the egg minivan. All right. This is still very egg-like to me. It looks awesome. I don't know if Best Car has seen this vehicle yet. No, Best Car nailed the Prius. They got the Crown really close. They nailed the Land Cruisers. They nailed the GR Corolla. Do they know what this looks like? It's hard to say at this point in time. And we're still a few years out, right? We're going into 2025. This van won't be announced maybe till 2026, 2027. It's supposed to be available in 2027. It's probably unlikely to look exactly like this, but from what they're hearing, of course, it will keep its egg-like stature to it. On the interior, don't expect it to look like this. This is from the LFZC or the LFZL. The LFZL was the flagship at last year's Japan Mobility Show, and I got in that vehicle. It is bizarre. It has sliding doors, not like a minivan because their doors kind of pop out a little bit more than slide. It's more, those doors are actually seen on the Toyota Century SUV. But this interior, I hope Toyota doesn't stick with this even on their production forms of these vehicles coming in 2027. They have been delayed. This is fully battery electric. It has gigacasting and software defined. The Previa will not be, or the Estima will not be software defined. It will be an adaptation of the K platform. K platform is the RAV4, the Camry, the Highlander, the Grand Highlander. I mean, it has so many variations to the K platform, and the current Sienna is on this. The Alphard and the Velfire are on the K platform. So they're just going to modify the K platform to be able to handle a lot of battery. All right, I've talked about the plug-in hybrid, but they're also supposedly to have a fully battery electric. I think most of us in America would prefer the plug-in hybrid. Over 100 miles, should I say the EREV, over 100 miles of range on EV. And then you have the little gasoline engine. They'll be pumping away when you're on the highway to give you that insane range. That total range is going to be incredible. Probably, well, is it going to be better than our current range on the Sienna? It's probably comparable. But instead of getting, let's say, 35 to 40 miles per gallon in town, you'll be driving fully electric in town since it's an EREV and your efficiency is going to go through the roof. All right. So, and they're saying it'll be 300 horsepower. So it could have similar motors, around 200 horsepower up front, 100 horsepower in the rear, similar to what we see in something like the Lexus RZ, for example, the RZ 450e. I mentioned the K platform. They do talk about ETNGA, but ETNGA is essentially the K platform that's been modified for battery electric. So that's what's going on here. You'll have your choice between a plug-in hybrid / EREV, and then you'll have a fully battery electric. Now, this is where it gets tricky because right now we're in a strange time where we could get higher import tax and tariffs, I guess higher tariffs on vehicles made from Japan. If we were to get this, well, it could be hit with more tariffs. Okay, it's already any imported vehicle other than China, that's 100% import. Any other vehicle from any other country is 2.5%, unless it's chicken tax, which this would not be a chicken tax vehicle. All right, so it would be 2.5% now, but if let's say Trump increases the tariffs, it would be maybe 5%, maybe more, right? I think he's threatening 25%, but it would never, ever, ever get to that. It would completely screw the market in the short term. Long term, who knows? But short term, it would be very bad to have that sort of tariffs, at least if they were that high. And I think it's just bargaining words right now, but let's hope tariffs wouldn't keep this out. Let's make another case for this. But if Sienna ends production in Indiana, why would that be? Toyota and Lexus have already announced there's going to be a new battery electric 3-row EV coming out of there, in addition to the Kentucky 3-row EV. I don't know why we would need two separate 3-row EVs unless, well, they said it's an SUV too, which would rule out a minivan. All right, so maybe Toyota just has Japan as the minivan manufacturing capital of the world, already is. Maybe they make the Previa there once again and import to the United States, and the Sienna gets discontinued. I wouldn't be sad about it because the Previa is just so much cooler, right? Who knows what the actual chances of the Previa coming back for America? It seems likely that it is returning. I would say like 75% chance or higher that it's going to be returning for certain markets. For the United States, it's still up for debate. Now, they have BEV range here, but most of us in America don't care about BEV range. The plug-in hybrid range on an EV mode would be over 100 miles. Total range is probably going to be around 600 miles. If you look at BEV range just for the BEV, 650 kilometers times 0.62, that's miles, but that's a different cycle. So we divide by 1.12. So you're talking about 350 miles of range. They're also saying it's going to use these new bipolar lithium-ion batteries that give us 40% less cost and 20% higher energy density or better range. So yeah, 350-ish miles of range sounds pretty good to me on an electric minivan, but what sounds better is 600 miles of range in an E-Rev. All right. So anyways, I'm going to shut it down there. Thank you guys for watching. And I can't wait to see your thoughts on the potentiality of the Previa / Estima gracing the world once again. 30 years since we've seen it in America, in the mid 90s. I think the late 90s is when, maybe 98, something like that, is when the Sienna started production in North America and replaced the Estima / Previa. But man, Toyota, bring it to America. We need more minivans, and we need minivans with some flair. And the Sienna doesn't have the flair of the Previa, never has. Okay. Thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Long live the smart genius egg.